So as I've been working through my project, one of the things that I wanted to see if I could do was have AI do all the coding, from the front end, the back end, the SQL database, store procedures, even the reporting. And everything was working great until I got to Power BI. And some of you might be saying, well, hey, what about MCPs? And you're right, Model Context Protocol, Cursor's got an add-in for that. And it'll get you 75% there. So that's, building the models, relationships, any kind of DAX that you want. And that's great. But it stops at, hey, can you build me some reports? And that can be a huge, not necessarily time sink, but take a while to build that all out. So I was like, hey, there's got to be a better way to do this, end to end. Everything else was working great. So I actually asked Copilot, I was like, hey, what can we do? And it came back and gave me some ideas, and I'm going to show you that right now. So let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, so I've already got this sales Power BI opened. It's got one table in it just to kind of get us started. And in order for this to work, we're not going to use MCP. And one of the things with MCPs is they also take a lot of tokens. So there's kind of a win-win scenario for another way. And this is how we're going to do it. So we've got our PBIX file, ready to go. What we're going to do is we're going to go to File and Save As. And we are going to save this as a Power BI project file. So go ahead and save that. And then once that is saved and it's in our folder, let's go ahead and we're going to pop into Cursor. All right, now we're in Cursor in our folder, and we can see here on the left-hand side, we've got our PBIX file and our Power BI project file, PBIP, and we've got our model and everything saved there. So we're going to go ahead, and we don't even need premium for this. I'm just going to go to auto for the model here, and we'll go ahead and put it on agent for now. We could ask it or have it make a plan or something, like that, but we're going to keep it pretty simple. I've already got some tables kind of saved up here. So here's the prompt that we're going to go with, and we're just going to do this live. So we would like to make some reports in our sales PBIP. Can you please also load these tables? And we'll go ahead and put the list there. So that'll give it it's going to be able to read that date one that we had in there and kind of figure out how to add these in. And then let's say, can you please create the relationships between these tables so that it can do that? And what we're also going to say is, can you review the orders table and make the appropriate measures? And some things that might be is like, like total orders, total sales, revenue, etc. And then let's add some time intelligence measures as well. And you could go a couple different directions here. Maybe you want to put all your, measures in the fact table or different table, depending on what you're doing. For the purposes of this, let's just say, can we also put our measures in a measures table with subfolders? That makes sense, right? Something like that. And, if you have multiple fact tables, you might just want to put your measures in a fact table. Just kind of specify that. So this will kind of get us hooked up, get the measures, and this is kind of the stuff that the MCP server would do. However, now we're going to see if we can get around that, not only save tokens, but have it just update the project file. Because the project type, these project files are all text, and that's going to be great for AI to kind of read and update it. And as you kind of work with this, you might want to have some rules or skills for consistency, moving forward. Now, one of the things I'm going to specify here is, can we keep a premium theme for building reports? Have a premium gray background, rounded edges on the visuals, and, modify this depending on however you want it. I'm going to put etc. And then now we're going to kind of define what we want. And I'm going to keep this one pretty simple for this video. Let's say on tab 1, let's call it summary. And can we have 5 KPI cards at the top? And below those, let's say cards, let's have 5 slicers. And then I'm just going to put, use your best judgment to add some dimensions from the dim table, if that makes sense. And then let's see, last but not least, that'll give us that. We also might need to specify that let's have the slicers, edges exact to the KPI above them. So it's kind of like visually laid out nice. And then on the left side, can we have a visual trend, let's say, maybe say revenue, right? Revenue by month. And on the right side, and this is going to be under the slicers, can we have a, sales by product type? Something simple like that. So we're going to start with this first, and let's see, just what it goes ahead and builds for us. So we'll go ahead and submit that request and see what the agent does. It's checking the format to load the files, folders, summary page layout. Okay, so you can see it found the SQL connection. That's great. It's going to now see how to create those other tables. Let's see what it's doing here. Okay. And depending on how long this takes, I might fast forward up a little bit. All right, and we're back. This took about 5 or so minutes. Here's the results, just kind of scrolling up a little bit. Here's what was added and how it fits together. This was pretty lengthy, but we can kind of see, the semantic model that was created, the measures, report page summary, theme, and some other things. So let's actually just go take a look and see what came back from that prompt. Let's go ahead and open up the project file. And it says loading the data model. And this, is something that will come up. Issues were found, not a problem. Let's just copy this to the clipboard, close that down, and then we'll go back to the agent and prompt, just paste in that error. And then let's have it, take a look at it and see if it can kind of, retrace the steps and get that fixed up. All right, it had found the error and went ahead and made some updates. So let's go ahead and take a look at it this time. All right, we've got her loaded up. Let's go ahead and refresh now just to get some data in here. All right, so now that we loaded some data in the project file, there was still a couple of errors with some of the visuals. So we're gonna have it just take one more pass at it and see if we can get that cleaned up. All right, we're almost there. So after the latest prompt, we come in here now. Most everything's working pretty well, but the slicers are not in the drop-down format that I'd like to see. We have one of the KPIs that isn't quite working. So let's go back to Cursor. And here's what we're going to prompt. I'm just going to go ahead and close the Power BI file. One of the, can you please review one of the KPI visuals is not assigned? Can we make all the, let's say, slicers have a drop down with multiple selections. And I think that's probably all we want for this video. So let's go ahead and do that. And once we get that kind of dialed in, then we'll be good. And so the idea here is, when you make your, rules or skills or some other guides, I mean, you can have Power BI reference another template file to say, match the same template as this and really kind of dial it into, whatever type of standardizations for the reports that you're looking for. So let's go ahead. We're going to have this one do one last pass at it, and then I think we're going to be good to go. All right, and we are back looking at the project file. So if we swing back to Cursor and just take a look at the last prompts, we had said that, some of the KPI visuals were not assigned. We wanted to make all the slicers multiple selections. So, kind of came back to us, kind of figured out what was going on there, and then, made those updates. And so now when we go ahead and we look at that file, I mean, there we go. We've got our, our KPIs up top, just like we asked for, our slicers below that, and our, revenue on the left, and a revenue by category on the right. And if we wanted to make any changes here, we could just have Cursor do it for us, make a detail page, add some additional charts, change the theme if you want to. But I was really excited to kind of get to a point where it's like, hey, now AI can actually build the reports for us too, and that really gives us like the complete end-to-end, with the Power BI as far as not necessarily the SQL side of it, but as far as loading the data, relationships, DAX, the report side itself. Now AI can kind of accelerate along that entire way. And if we look at this and we swing back, we can see that it's got everything modeled up. This is a deactivated relationship that activates in certain scenarios, and that's fine. There's a region on the customers table, and so if you wanted to, maybe not have that there, you could take that out, but that's fine there. And then we've got our measures, we got our sales, core measures that it created for us, our time intelligence measures, and think of all the measures and how long it would take to put these in here, validate them, make sure they're correct. Cursor AI can help with that as well. We got all the tables here. And again, this was a blank slate, about 5 minutes ago. And with just a little bit of prompting a few times to kind of get it dialed in, there we go. Now we've got a fully, ready to go dashboard. So, and, maybe some minor formatting things that, you can swing back and have it, update. Pretty cool. And, be interested to see what you think. So one other thing that I'll share is this is the, dashboards that I was working on with, Cohort Engine. So these were some of the visuals that, AI was able to, build for me on Power BI. So things like retention curves, cohort comparison, matrix. So these were all visuals that, AI built out for me, including the same thing we just saw, right? The whole data model, metrics, etc. And what was really exciting about this is once you connect it to your SQL databases and things like that, you can create some, measure tables and some validations, right? So it was really neat to have AI, because it has access to my SQL database. It can actually run validations across the board to make sure that the DAX metrics are aligned, the visuals are aligned, and everything ties out. So there's a lot of observability and validations that you use this to put in place as well. So, all right. So added a couple more prompts here, in particular, this one right here where wanted to add some spacing between the KPIs, so they're not quite touching, modify the charts, and, maybe use some better titling and things like that, kind of clean it up a little bit. So added this prompt in right here. Also said anything else you recommend. I like to just throw that in there just to kind of see if the model has any ideas to kind of add in and of itself. So cool, we're there. It already went ahead and made those changes. It's got some other recommendations for us. But now if we go ahead and we look at the Power BI report, this one's more of a lighter theme, a little bit maybe more premium for the light side. So we've got some tighter title headers, and we cleaned up the names, so a little bit more readable, customer segment and rep name instead of like rep underscore name, stuff like that, and cleaned up the visuals and things like that. So I mean, it looks really good. Just imagine for your workflows, having something like this in place, get your standards set, and then, your formatting, and then, AI is going to be able to do this at scale for you. And even if it can't get 100%, what you're looking for whatever reason, if it can get you, 95% there, and then you come up with a couple of tweaks, then that's pretty huge as far as time savings goes, and, really accelerating it. So, you know, curious to let you know if anyone else has tried that out. If you have, let me know. Be interested to kind of see how others are using it. So until then, we'll see you next time.